My grandson, David, encountered his inaugural winter this year. The weather report indicated a record cold day, and naturally, concerns for David and his mother, Yvonne, crept into my thoughts. Worried about the possibility of them falling ill due to the extreme cold, I reached out to Yvonne through my smartphone, asking if they were both okay and cautioning against catching a cold. Despite sending the message 2 or 3 times, there was no response, not even a raid receipt. Yvonne, usually quite responsible, had me growing increasingly anxious. After waiting for another hour, I attempted to call, but my efforts were in vain. Realizing this was no trivial matter, I hastily donned my thick jumper and hurried to drive to my son's family apartment. Upon ringing the intercom, there was no response. Fearing the worst, that Yvonne might have collapsed inside, I sought the assistance of the building manager to open the door. The apartment, engulfed in darkness, allowed only faint street lamp light to seep through. Fumbling along the wall, I searched for the light switch from memory, but my attempts proved futile. An unsettling mix of anxiety and irritation gripped me. With no other option, I resorted to my smartphone's flashlight to scan the surroundings. "Yvonne, are you there?" I called out. Could they be out? Just as I was about to leave, a baby's cry reached my ears from the bedroom. Rushing towards it, I found Yvonne shivering from the cold, desperately wrapping newborn David in a sheet to keep him warm. To my shock, Yvonne's once long, proud black hair was now almost completely shaved off. Distraught, I asked, "What happened here?" "Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Mary Smith, a 61-year-old woman who has worked as a hairstylist for many years, running a salon out of my home. The salon, initially started by my late husband and me, became my sole responsibility after his untimely demise due to cancer when our son, Harry, was still young. Despite the challenges, I raised Harry single-handedly. He didn't make it easy, often skipping school and getting into trouble when he did attend. I often wondered if it was due to the absence of a father figure or if I was not a good enough mother. However, Harry surprised me one day by expressing his desire to become a hairstylist. Pinching my cheek, I thought I was dreaming. "What's gotten into you? Hairstylists are popular with the ladies, right?" I teased. Regardless of the reason, I decided to support Harry's newfound interest in his future. Harry successfully graduated from cosmetology school and began working as an apprentice at a senior salon, where he met Yvonne, who would later become his wife. Harry was smitten with her at first sight, and after a strong pursuit, announced confidently, "I've decided to marry this girl." He introduced me to Yvonne, a wonderful woman with long black hair and a bright smile. A year after their marriage, Harry expressed his desire to start his own salon. Despite my worries about the challenges a newcomer might face, I couldn't ignore the earnest look in Harry's eyes as he talked about his dream. When he showed me his bank book with a troubled look and a sigh, I realized he was far from having enough to start his own business. Despite having a steady income, he had been spending as much as he earned on leisure activities, perhaps squandering most of his earnings. I should have advised him to give up then, but instead I smiled and reassured him, "Don't worry about the money." Perhaps it was my way of compensating for the loneliness of growing up without a father. Truth be told, I hadn't touched the life insurance money left by my late husband. It was for Harry. "You'd forgive me, right?" I whispered to my husband's portrait. One of my regulars happened to be knowledgeable in real estate, so I consulted with her. The property, a former barber shop retired due to the owner's old age, seemed perfect for Harry's new venture. With the help of my regulars, including one whose husband was skilled in construction and another whose son was studying architecture, the renovation progressed smoothly. Once the health department approved, the salon opened promptly. The speed at which I established my own business surprised me. "You should thank everyone. It's not something you could have done alone," I told Harry as I handed him the bank book containing his father's inheritance. Despite the lower-than-expected costs, there was still more than half left. "This is a gift from your father to you. Use it wisely for business expenses, and don't you dare waste it," I warned him with a chuckle. "I'll keep a close eye on Harry to make sure he doesn't spend the money foolishly." Yvonne said with a bright smile, lightening the mood. With Yvonne's help, I could step back and watch over their business from a distance. However, my optimism soon waned. Yvonne occasionally visited my salon with somber updates. 3 months after Harry's salon opened, she confided in me, "Harry's not putting his heart into the work." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Harry, who had been so enthusiastic at first, had changed. "What's Harry doing now?" I asked, concerned. "He's frustrated about the lack of customers and spends his days drinking," Yvonne admitted, her voice heavy with worry. "If he doesn't get his act together, we'll lose even more clients." It was disheartening to hear. "All right, I'll have a serious talk with him next time I see him," I promised Yvonne, trying to offer some comfort. "Thank you so much," Yvonne said, bowing deeply before brushing back her long black hair. "Your hair is always so stunning," I commented, attempting to lighten the mood amidst the shadows of uncertainty. "I started growing it out in middle school," she said proudly. "Has it really been that long?" "Any particular reason?" I inquired. Yvonne looked at me earnestly, her eyes sparkling as she explained. "It's about making wigs from real hair for children who've lost their hair due to congenital diseases, illness, or accidents. I've been growing my hair to donate to organizations involved in this. Isn't it wonderful to be able to help someone?" "That's really admirable, especially for someone as young as you," I said, overwhelmed by Yvonne's passion. 6 months into her marriage with Harry, Yvonne got pregnant. She's always been so conscientious, always pushing herself too hard. "This is the most crucial time. You really shouldn't overdo it," I repeatedly warned her, but each time she'd just lightly laugh and say, "Don't worry, I'm taking it easy," consulting with the baby in my belly, while working at the salon right up until the last month of her pregnancy, supporting the family while Harry's attitude worsened. What is he even thinking? Every time Yvonne updated me, I felt my own shortcomings as a mother. One day, I finished work early and decided to check on their salon. I ran into Harry just as he was about to leave. "Where are you going?" "Out for a drink. There won't be any more customers today anyway," he said nonchalantly, laughing off his situation. The lack of customers had become normal for Harry, and he wasn't even trying to improve things anymore. "You're about to become a father, you know," I said sternly. But Harry waved his hand dismissively and hopped on his motorcycle. Inside the salon, Yvonne was cleaning the floor. "Today we managed to get just one customer," she said, smiling brightly despite looking exhausted. "Are you eating properly? You need to get enough nutrition," I urged, making sure she understood the gravity of the situation. Yvonne teared up a bit and thanked me. At times like this, the father should be there to support her. I wanted to shout at Harry, who was nowhere to be found. Yvonne told me the salon wasn't doing well, and Harry was spending money recklessly every night. Giving that bank book to Harry was a mistake. I regretted my decision. Despite being busy, Yvonne never neglected her hair care, gently stroking her belly. "I want to teach my child the joy of helping others," she said. That's when I realized I wanted to support her. Since my son wasn't of much help, I decided to assist Yvonne at their apartment. "I'm always sorry to trouble you," Yvonne said. "Don't worry about it, just focus on the baby," I reassured her. It was my fault for not raising my son right. Because of that, Yvonne was suffering. Perhaps it was my way of atoning for my sins. At least at the end of summer, Yvonne went into labor earlier than expected and was rushed to the hospital. Harry was nowhere to be found, unreachable. I persistently sent messages to Harry, but there were no replies, not even read receipts. I couldn't fathom what he was doing at a crucial time like this. Yvonne's parents had passed away, leaving me as the sole support for her. In the midst of her challenging childbirth, I kept encouraging her, assuring her that she wasn't alone. After a prolonged and arduous labor, the overwhelming sound of the baby's cries filled the air. "He's born." "You did it, Yvonne," I exclaimed with tears in my eyes. However, Harry, who should have been there, never showed up. My grandson David was experiencing his first winter, and the weather report indicated a record cold day. Concerns for Yvonne and newborn David consumed my thoughts. I sent a message that night, expressing my worries and asking if they were okay. Despite sending 2 or 3 messages, there was no response, not even a read receipt. Concerned that Yvonne might be too ill to respond, I feared the worst. Worried about their well-being, I tried calling again after waiting another hour. But the result was the same, silence on the other end. Realizing something was amiss, I quickly put on a thick jumper and rushed to their apartment. Upon arrival, the place was shrouded in darkness, and my attempts to contact them yielded no response. Although families traveling abroad during the holidays wasn't uncommon, I hadn't heard anything about a trip from Yvonne and Harry. Concerned for Yvonne's well-being, I asked the building manager to open the door, expressing my urgency. Stepping inside, I found the apartment dark, with only the faint glow from street lamps. Groping for the light switch, I discovered it wasn't functioning, adding to my anxiety. Resorting to my smartphone's flashlight, I called out to Yvonne, but there was no response. Just as I was about to leave, a faint cry from the bedroom caught my attention. Rushing toward it, I discovered Yvonne shivering, desperately wrapping newborn David in a sheet. Shining the light on her, I was shocked to find that her once long, proud black hair had been roughly cut off. Her red, swollen eyes reflected the distress she had endured. I draped my jumper over Yvonne, offering comfort, and urged her to share what had happened. Yvonne spoke slowly, revealing that Harry continued his reckless behavior even after David was born. Unable to pay the electric bill, Yvonne scolded him, seeking more responsibility as a father. However, her pleas were met with rage. In a fit of anger, Harry grabbed hair-cutting scissors and began chopping off Yvonne's hair. Initially resisting, Yvonne stopped out of fear for David's safety. In a mocking tone, Harry declared that she wouldn't be able to show her face in public anymore. I stood there, speechless, as I witnessed my son's cruel actions unfold before me. "Why didn't you tell me it had gotten this bad?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of disappointment and sorrow. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry," Yvonne apologized, shouldering the blame once again. "No, Yvonne, it's not your fault. You're not the one to blame here. It's Harry," I reassured her, pulling her into a tight hug, tears streaming down my face. The entire situation was a stark reminder of my own failings as a mother and Harry's inability to empathize with others. Taking a deep breath, I dialed Harry's number. "Hey, Mom, long time no talk. What's up?" He answered casually, oblivious to the turmoil he had caused. "Just wanted to hear your voice. How's everything over there? Are Yvonne and David doing okay?" I inquired, trying to keep my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. "Of course, everyone's fine and doing well. We're actually in Hawaii as a family of 3. We'll be back next week," Harry replied smoothly, his words dripping with deceit. I knew he was blatantly lying to me, and the weight of disappointment settled heavily on my shoulders. "What would you like as a souvenir? I'll bring you something nice. Anything's fine," he offered, attempting to mask his deceit with false generosity. "You're coming back next week, right? Safe and sound," I pressed, hoping for a hint of honesty in his response. "Hey, Mom, you sound a bit off. Is something wrong?" Harry's concern was feigned, and without another word, I ended the call, my heart heavy with disappointment. Informing the building manager of my plans, I decided to take Yvonne and David back to my house. Then, I began making calls to every place I could think of, determined to take action. A week later, Harry called me cheerfully, announcing his return. "I'm back, Mom, and I've got souvenirs for you," he exclaimed, feigning affection. But my heart was no longer deceived by his act. An hour later, a taxi pulled up in front of the apartment, and Harry, sporting distinct tan lines from his solo trip to Hawaii, began unloading his luggage. Expecting to be greeted by his wife and son, he inserted the key into the lock, but it wouldn't budge. "What's going on here?" Harry exclaimed in frustration. Quietly approaching him, I asked with a smile, "Did you enjoy your trip to Hawaii?" His relief at seeing me quickly turned to confusion as I revealed the truth about his deceitful escapade. "Mom, you're here?" Harry said, relief washing over him. "Listen, Mom, I just got back, and the key won't fit." It must be Yvonne's prank for going on a trip alone. He attempted to explain, shifting blame onto Yvonne. "What were you doing? I thought you said you went on the trip alone," I countered, pointing out his contradiction. Harry stumbled over his words, unable to justify his actions. "You really had the nerve to lie about taking a family trip to Hawaii?" I confronted him, my disappointment boiling over. Despite the frigid temperatures outside, Harry showed no remorse for his actions, only concern for his own comfort. "The cold Yvonne and David endured is nothing compared to this. Plus, you no longer have a home," I stated, my voice heavy with disappointment as I confronted my son's callous behavior. "Here, I've terminated the apartment lease. It's time for you to find your own place to live," I declared firmly. Harry protested, panic evident on his face. "Cancel the lease? What? Why would you do something like that without asking me?" he explained. However, the apartment was leased under my name, and I couldn't continue the conversation outside. So I ushered Harry to a nearby coffee shop for a more in-depth discussion. Sipping his coffee silently, Harry seemed lost in thought, glancing between me and his cup with a pale face. I addressed the financial strain, questioning, "You were so strapped for cash that you couldn't pay the electric bill, yet you managed to go to Hawaii." Harry grimaced and reluctantly began to share his selfish reasoning. He admitted to showcasing his extravagant lifestyle to friends and women he encountered at the salon, spending his father's inheritance recklessly. Aware that such spending would deplete any fortune quickly, he continued his lavish lifestyle even after the inheritance ran out, accumulating debts for gifts and trips. "You're quite the big spender, especially for a failing business. Don't worry, I'm a professional hairstylist. Once I get serious clients, they'll come flooding in, and I'll be able to support my family," Harry replied, exuding unfounded confidence. I cut through his illusions, stating, "I've already sold your salon and all the equipment. It's too late to get anything back." "That's a lie." "Why would you do something like that?" Harry's face turned red as he slammed his hand on the table. "Oh, you were planning to continue with the salon? I thought you had abandoned it since you left everything to Yvonne. Besides, I bought the building and land in my name." "You have no right to complain now," I calmly asserted. "But I was just trying to attract customers. I had it all planned out," Harry pleaded with desperation in his eyes. Coldly, I responded, "If you're so confident in your skills, you should be able to start over from scratch." I left the coffee shop after leaving money for the coffee on the table. A month passed, during which Yvonne and I avoided any contact with Harry. Unpleasant rumors reached my ears as Harry sought financial help from friends, only to be rejected due to his financial troubles. Reports even surfaced of him being warned by the police for stalking women he met at his salon. His lack of support and the consequences of his actions led Harry to disappear from our lives. He was likely living alone, fearing debt collectors. My anger toward Harry extended beyond his reckless spending to how he neglected Yvonne and David. His actions were unforgivable, particularly cutting off Yvonne's long hair, grown for years for a noble cause. Understanding Yvonne's emotional pain, I reached out to my hairstylist friends and had a special wig made for her. It wouldn't make up for my son's wrongs, but it was a gesture of support. "Thank you, Mom," Yvonne said, smiling through tears. Using my aching back as an excuse, I asked Yvonne to help at the salon. She threw herself into work, trying to forget her emotional scars. The salon atmosphere improved, attracting more customers, especially mothers with young children. Yvonne, regaining her strength both physically and emotionally, initiated the process of divorcing Harry. The salon, once filled with smiles, had David becoming its little mascot, bringing in good fortune. Yvonne's cheerful atmosphere attracted more and more regulars. In a quiet corner, David peacefully slept, his cute snores filling the air. The salon was filled with smiles again, and Yvonne's cheerful atmosphere brightened everyone's day.